Yes, loony listeners, welcome back to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 76, and yes, a couple of days have passed since we have issued our last episode, 75, and we are at it again. So, you are with, of course, one of your high priests, Ray. I have a very special guest here, no stranger to the show. He featured way back, I think, that was way back in episode 40-something, I believe. We have Chris Jones from Defenders TV podcast. Hello, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here once again. I think I'm just going to stick for every couple of 40 episodes. I'll just get you to hold. So I'll be back before episode 120. I'll be back. Just keep it going that way.
Oh, would be more than happy to have you back even more regularly if we could. For loony listeners that have been listening for that duration, they would be aware that the last time Chris came on the show, we reviewed a Spider-Man issue with a cameo appearance. I think it was a classic run of Moon Knight, and I believe it was in The Amazing Spider-Man. I could get that wrong. It eludes me, but Chris is an avid Spider-Man fan, so who better to have on the show when we will review the latest issue, which came out only last week, I believe, of Infinity Warp's ARACH-KNIGHT. So, Chris, I believe you have your web shooters at the ready. You're all good to go?
Oh, I'm all set. At least it's not the organic web shooters, because that would just be... Anyway.
That would be a bit weird. I mean, I guess... Before we crack into that, just quickly, just getting to know a bit more. Chris, you did mention before, all those episodes ago, how big a Spider-Man fan are you? Well, you are. What are you currently reading by way of Spider-Man, apart from ARACH-KNIGHT, of course?
So I'm unfortunately deep into Spider-Geddon.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the best ones. Not only just because, so a lot of people go, oh, you get the Spider-Man from everywhere, or Spider-Women, or Spider-People. They call it the Spider-People from everywhere. No, it's actually just because it's more like kind of seeing, that is my thing. I like the different variations of Spider-Man. So there's Spider-Cowboy, who's quite actually good. There's Octavia Otto, basically she's a female version of Dr. Octopus.
Yeah. She's pretty good.
And she is a really good one.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to have a genius. I mean, not that Spider-Man or Peter Parker's no slouch when it comes to, science. Or actually Otto as well, because he's featured in there as well, isn't he? He's a superior Spider-Man.
Yes, or the superior octopus.
Octopus, yes.
Now he's the that's his superhero persona. It's getting confusing, and the one thing as we get older, you will discover more and more that just Marvel comics get convoluted over the years. I was just trying to explain with someone the secondary Clone Saga. And then they were like, what do you mean the secondary? And I was like, okay, so we'll take you back to the first Clone Saga.
Oh,
okay.
Gosh.
So this is and I was just like, okay, yeah. Our hobby sometimes is kind of weird. The fact that we can kind of go, by the way, so did you see this? So this is the Jackal. So the Jackal actually was in love with this lady, but then actually decided to clone her. And the clone wasn't actually a clone. It turned out to be a real thing.
Yeah.
And then and you're like, yeah, it sounds like one of those old 90s telenovelas. It's like kind of like that our grannies used to watch.
Yeah. It just gets so complicated for the sake of just being complicated. And yeah, the Clone Saga was a mind expletive. It was exactly. a really tough one. Did you read The Clone Conspiracy, which was later, I think Dan Slott did that recently, with the Jackal that turned out to be Ben Reilly of all people? I mean, talk about even more bloody weird.
Yeah, that was the reason actually I was trying to explain the first Clone Saga. to someone because they were like, "What the hell? Who was that ending?" and everything. I'm like, okay, well, to understand correctly,
you have to go back and that's it. I mean, you have to actually keep on going back further and further and kind of go down the rabbit hole even more. With Spider-Geddon, that is off the back, of course, to the Spider-Verse? Into the Spider-Verse, was it?
Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
it was Spider-Verse, and then it was like the actual... I think it was the prequels were Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes. Oh, Edge of Spider-Verse, sorry, I think it was.
Edge of Spider-Verse, that was it, yes.
And even then you go back further, and I believe it was the Michael Straczynski run, because that's where I kind of come across the Inheritors, like Morlun and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was an epic run.
They were good.
Yeah.
No, exactly, and that's the thing. So every now and again, a writer or writers come to Spider-Man, and they just toe the line. It's like, okay, so Peter Parker, he webs someone up. There's a kind of 3-story arc. You're like, okay, grand, fine. It was good. It wasn't great. Well done. And then the Straczynski and all those guys kind of every now and again they just go from take this really strange approach, but it just turns out to be magical. Like there was the Ezekiel.
Yes.
I can't remember that run where it was the spider totem and it turns out he was chosen and all that. And you're like, this is completely bonkers off the wall, but makes some great comic books.
Exactly. It's kind of like, I mean, as you say, a lot of the stuff is convoluted. But when it does kind of hit the groove and it expands the mythology of Spider-Man, because let's face it, there's only so much you can do with a high school student getting bitten by a radioactive spider and becomes a Spider-Man of sorts, you know. There's obviously ways that writers have to keep on making it interesting, kind of fleshing things out. So that's why we get stuff like Silk. She ended up being so... Wasn't that correct? Like she got bitten by the radioactive spider the same as Peter Parker, that we never knew before.
Yeah, and yeah, that was such a good one. Actually, I forgot about that.
Yeah, but then you get the whole totem thing. The totem thing is just totally. It just expands the whole Spider universe. You know, puts it on its head, and then you have the whole Spider-Verse thing with all the multiple dimensions with Peter Porker and Spider Noir and all that. It's really good.
Penny Parker, and so one of my favorite additions, and because I'm a gamer as well, is the PS4 Spider-Man.
Ah, yes.
With the advanced suit, the new, everyone was like, "Oh my god, they're building a new suit for Spider-Man. It's going to be terrible."
Yeah, and
it's one of the best. So it's one of the best interpretations of Spider-Man, I think, in a long time.
Really? So, yeah, I haven't played the game. So the game is obviously, you know, the B's and E's of games, isn't it? For Marvel games?
It is. Oh, so it's a PS4 exclusive, PlayStation 4. But the team behind the writing in Insomniac, absolutely fantastic. Like, it is really... It's one of the... Like, as a Spider-Man fan or as a fan who... briefly knows, because I'm assuming a lot of the Moon Knight fans are going to cursorily know Spider-Man's kind of background and to the side. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of stuff in there that you're like, well, I know where this is going. That's fine. It's the actual journey. So I was like, I know where this is going, but I'm still okay with it because it is really good. And then they twist and turns. There's a lot of twists and turns that you go, okay, touche, well done. I did not see that one coming. Go you. So really, really fantastic.
Yeah, great. I am hoping not to spoil anything because I'm just a question, a naive question, Chris. Have you completed the game by any chance?
Yes. Yes,
oh, you
100%.
So I'm imagining there are some really cool cameos and appearances of Spider-Man, you know, peripheral characters and maybe Rogue's gallery. Do you get to see Tombstone? He's one of my favourite villains.
Yes, you do.
Oh,
There's
good.
A side mission.
Oh, cool. Lovely.
Yeah. So the latest one There's 2 DLCs at the moment. The third one is out in December or this month, later this month. We don't know a date yet. But the Tombstone is a side mission, which is really good.
Cool.
It's kind of a mini boss fight.
Sorry, Chris. Again, just I'll have to pardon my ignorance. What's a DLC?
Sorry, DLC is downloadable content, so it's extra episodes.
Okay.
So in the DLC you have Black Cat, and then you also have one with Hammerhead, which is just coming out now.
Oh, nice.
And the Magi, or the Magia.
The Magia.
I go Magi, and then it's Magia. Yeah.
That's old, what's his name, Hammerhead, with the, I think he's got adamantium skull, doesn't he? He's got some sort of tough skull.
It's something like that, or basically his mother clipped him around the head a few times, and it just kind of,
kind of hardened up.
It flattened it out like that. But yeah, no. So really, really, it was there, and it was really good.
Nice.
That was a good mission. I remember that.
Awesome. And look, we only do allow one Batman reference per episode, so I'm going to use that card now. I've heard it's very similar to, is that right, to Arkham Asylum and a lot of the Batman games. I'm not an aficionado with gaming.
Combat, yes. Combat is a similar style, so there's like block, jump, left kind of thing. Very, very similar. But it's, in my opinion, personally, above and beyond, because it gets the traversal right, which is the Spider-Man swing. So swinging is just fantastic. Awesome. It really kind of just takes it. And it's not an origin story, because you've been, without telling too much, well, no, it's in the marketing. You're Spider-Man already for 8 years.
For 8 years?
So Yeah.
Okay.
So you've been Spider-Man for 8 years, so you're in there, like, you know your powers. Now, you do get some extra powers and things like that, but he knows all the basics. It's not like he's going to do the running to the side of the building and learn to swing for the first time.
Oh, good. Because I guess that would be tiresome. And very important, obviously, to have that swinging aspect done right for a game. I guess that's one of the big things for Spider-Man, isn't it? So that's really good to hear. Is his representation? I mean, he hasn't got that big representation in Spider-Geddon, because one of the big things is the PS4 Spider-Man is in Spider-Geddon as well, which is a huge thing. There doesn't seem that many marked differences between him and anyone else. So is there anything in the game, like you're saying he's been around for 8 years or so, and he's got the white kind of spider emblem on his chest. Is there anything else that's distinctly different from him that sets him apart from the other spider people?
Probably a few now, yes. But I don't want to get too deep into it, because I'm afraid...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
there's one or two... Yes, exactly. It's more about what happened to him, I think, is probably the big thing.
Okay, cool. I mean, well, we do digress a bit. It's but it is interesting. And I guess we're talking this because you are a big Spider-Man fan. Are you collecting, or are you going to be collecting the Nick Spencer run by Amazing Spider-Man?
I will, but probably towards the end of the kind of run. Yeah, that would be my thing.
Well, just to let you know, Chris, because I am collecting it, and as much as I love Dan Slott as well, I must say Nick Spencer's take on the Amazing Spider-Man is absolutely brilliant. It's one of my favourite titles at the moment. He just knocks it out of the park with Peter and all the relationships and stuff. I just read the latest issue now, and sometimes it gets wordy, but you're just kind of hanging off every word, because it's just that good with the writing. It goes into MJ, her relationship with Peter Parker, and all that. So it's really good. It's got a nice mix of action, but it also has that tried and true drama that you get with Amazing Spider-Man, which it's definitely worth checking out. So anyway, we are here, Chris, because we are going to review ARACH-KNIGHT number 2. Now, before we do that, actually, I might let's just take a quick break. We'll throw to just an ad break, and then we'll be right back, Looney listeners, with our thoughts on, both from a Spider-Man point of view and a Moon Knight point of view, on ARACH-KNIGHT number 2. Be right back.
Hi, this is Chris.
And this is Brian.
And we are the hosts of Inner Demons, the Ghost Rider podcast.
And you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and other podcast apps for all your Ghost Rider needs.
Right on.
Yes, welcome back, Looney listeners. We are here with a special guest co-host, Chris Jones from Defenders TV podcast. Chris being our Spider-Man representative, and yours truly being the Moon Knight representative of our review of Infinity Warps number 2 for ARACH-KNIGHT. And just right off the bat, Chris, how have you been liking it? Like, how did you find issue 1?
So it was slightly slow. Well, no, that's actually a lie. Because they basically they're trying to condense a origin into an issue. I really enjoyed, kind of without getting too much into it, I really enjoyed this because it is such a unique take. It's a warp of the two characters quite well, taking what I would consider some of their best story beat elements or origin elements and literally fusing them together. Sometimes it's a bit confusing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I like meeting MJ, for example, and things like that, because when it's someone you don't know, or when they're doing a role that you don't know, because unless you're deep into, say, more of the Moon Knight mythos, this doesn't make sense to you. So Spider-Man, I think that's the element where it's difficult. So, like, having the Harry Russell instead of the Osborns, the Russells. So, like, you're trying to go, wait. I'm assuming that's a Moon Knight reference.
Right.
But, like, if you're not a Werewolf by Night fan, this makes even no more sense. So you're like, okay. So I really enjoyed it.
Yep.
I really enjoyed the issue 1, but I wanted to kind of, I wanted the second issue to come a bit quicker because I was like, okay, I want to see how this ends. I want to see. They were on a good run. Let's put it that way. At the end of, they were the crest of the wave, and they were still riding high. So I was like, okay, you're either literally going to wipe out right now, and the issue 2 is just going to shit the bed, or you're going to end on a high because you've only got 2 issues. So that was it. I was waiting to see.
Yeah, and so I mean, I know that you do dabble obviously in a bit of Moon Knight as well, and so issue 1, I mean, as you alluded to, because there was a lot of amalgamations of characters there. So did you find yourself lost, as you were mentioning that some non-Moon Knight fans find? Did you find yourself kind of going, oh, hang on, let me just try and work out, who this person is meant to be matched up with? Were you annoyed at that, or was that just something that you
not annoyed? It took something I took in my stride. So Moon Knight, MJ's character, the female that she's been,
Marley Jane
merged with.
Yeah.
That was it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, for me, that was very much MJ, like Mary Jane, because Marlene, blonde, long hair. Mary Jane has long hair as well, red hair as well, though. But so that was a hard one, I think, to match up. So there was a very incidental connection there with Marley Jane. But I really did. We covered this with Rebecca in the review of issue 1. The matchup of the villains, and obviously the Green Goblin and Werewolf by Night is the big one. But you have Morbius, the living vampire, and Morpheus, the Moon Knight villain. That would have been very good, but I think, as you say, it would have been very subtle. I don't think... I mean, it went over my head. In the review, I was looking
I just thought it was Morbius.
Yeah.
I did not think of the Morpheus.
Me too.
I was like, okay, so it's just one guy. Okay.
Yeah, me too, exactly. As you know, I'm familiar with Morbius and being in Spider-Man, and I just glanced over the name, and I didn't see it was Michael Morpheus. And so I just read it as Morbius as well. And then Rebecca was the one that just pointed out to me, oh, you do realise it's a Morpheus. It's like, oh, gosh, of course, that makes sense. So,
okay, so tell me the backstory really quickly of Morpheus.
Morpheus, okay. Morpheus is really cool. He is a kind of like an experiment gone wrong. And he can't sleep, I believe. And the longer that he stays awake, he builds up this ebon energy, so he can actually shoot this ebon energy out of him, but he can also cast illusions. So this is whole dream kind of thing, hence the name Morpheus, I guess. So when you see it in ARACH-KNIGHT 1, you'd be hard pressed to actually see how because he's got bug eyes, and you can't see that in ARACH-KNIGHT 1. It's very much a Morbius looking character, except for the brow.
Yeah.
I think the brow gives away the Morpheus look, and Morpheus has this like big kind of, I don't know, crackly brow, which I believe it was shown in ARACH-KNIGHT 1. But other than that, you wouldn't know. So, yeah.
Okay. Bit of a... Yeah, that one was a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so from Moon Knight fans... And look, unashamedly as well, I believe in issue 2 as well, Chris, it does lean more on the Spider-Man. I mean, let's face it, Spider-Man is way more popular than Moon Knight. So a lot of it is based on Spider-Man with, secondary traits from Moon Knight. Would you agree on that?
Yeah. I think the biggest part they leaned on and pulled from in Moon Knight is the fractured... psyche, the billionaire, but you could say that as well because it's Parker Industries, yes. And at certain excuse me, at a certain point in the Spider-Man universe, Peter Parker did have Parker Industries, so I wasn't sure which one that was pulling it from, but all right, I'm pretty sure probably based on this it's Moon Knight.
Okay, yeah.
Being the rich millionaire.
Yeah, it could very much... I think it could sway either way with that. But anyway, let's get into it, Looney listeners. I hope you have your issues out as well. We're going to do, for listeners that are unfamiliar, we're going to treat this like any Lunar Pick review that we usually do. So we'll start off, and I have asked Chris to just give us a sliver of the synopsis. So basically, it's... a round nutshell of a summary of what happens on issue 2. Then Chris and I will just talk about, I guess, aspects of the issue that we found interesting, or things that we liked or didn't like, the art, the writing, and then we'll cap it off with our moon rating. Now, Chris, our moon rating is similar to Spider-Man's mythos, and it is highly convoluted. Admittedly, it's out of 10. So we can also you can go for a quarter moon, half moon, 3/4 moon, full moon, that kind of thing. If you get anywhere in between those, I can help you out with the phases of the moon there. But we cover every phase of the moon for our moon ratings. Does that make sense, Chris?
Sure. I basically I'm going to get to the end of this and go.
Yeah. I'm reluctant to mark it.
It was good. We're going to go like 1.2. No, actually, I'm just going to make it really difficult to you. So I'm going to go like, it's 1.175. Yeah, that's it.
Well, that's going to be hard. That's going to be really hard. Anyway, so let's kick off with ARACH-KNIGHT number 2. What I'll just do a rundown of the credits. Similar to ARACH-KNIGHT issue number 1, we have writer Dennis Hopeless. Massive, one of my favourite writers, Chris. Dennis Hopeless. We have penciler Ale Garza, inker Victor Olazaba, colorist Ruth Redmond. We have letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. And we have various cover artists, Giuseppe Camuncoli, Roberto Poggi, and Federico Blee. And let me just find the editor, of course, is Jordan D. White. So, with issue 2, Chris, how would you deliver your sliver for this issue?
So I was trying to think of something very smart. I was trying to think of something funny. None of those came to me on a Sunday morning. So I used good old Google, and I basically found the byline, Amazon listing, nice and easy. And it goes like such. ARACH-KNIGHT faces the deadly machinations of the terrible goblin by night. Can he save his best friend turned monster, or will he lose the goblin once and for all? So there we go. Within literally 2 sentences, I was able to condense this beautiful comic book issue. It's a tough one, because actually you do have a number of streams in this, if you were to break it down. So I kind of went, okay, very quickly. The ARACH-KNIGHT is confronted by a truth that he does not want to know in the end of issue 1. In this, it becomes even more, we get more of the werewolf by night mythos side, which is good. Secondary, then we do get the creation of what we can only consider the main antagonist for this warp ever. So the ultimate Green Goblin by night, if you want to call it that. So there we are. It's will he fail? Will he lose to the Goblin, or will the Goblin lose him?
Yeah, it was very well put, Chris. And it is a hard one because, as you mentioned, it's only a 2-parter. So they've really got to truncate stuff. They've really got to speed through things to really tell, some semblance of a story. And the plot itself from Hopeless is straightforward enough. And there's enough of a tease at the end to potentially give us more if we want more ARACH-KNIGHT. One of the things I think, Chris, as well, and I mentioned this with Rebecca when we did issue 1, the costume. I mean, actually, I want to know your thoughts on the costume. I think it's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, so the costume is actually one of my most favourite aspects of this. I think it's, aside from the slightly fluffy pants, the kind of ballooning pants slightly, which I was like, that's a unique choice.
Yeah, it is actually.
The rest of it I love, because it's an element. Now, you'll have to answer this to me. Does Moon Knight have a, technological suit as well? Because there's one point where he's falling and he suits up, and it's all kind of just flowing over him.
That's right. You're
very like the Extremis armor from Iron Man, where it's all nanotechnology and stuff. And I was like, is this from Moon Knight? Is that from... Well, where's that coming from?
Yeah. Well, actually, I thought that probably might be, and I was going to put the question to you. I thought that might be more of a Parker Industries sort of thing. There's certainly, in Moon Knight, there's certainly nothing of that technology that Mark Spector has. He would have more likely, as you mentioned, the baggy cargo pants, which you see here, because being an ex-merc and everything. But no, there's nothing of that sort in Moon Knight's story. So yeah, that was a strange thing I saw. Yeah, when they kind of crashed through the skyscraper, the window, all of a sudden he seemed to be suited up, didn't he? Yeah.
No, yeah, because he kind of he literally starts doing, as he falls, it starts wrapping over him, and I was like, it's okay, yeah, sure, I'll take it. As a whole, though, I love the red and white. I honestly do think that this is if you were just to slim down the cargo shorts, I do think it would be the perfect kind of overall kind of version of it, because you have the iconic Moon Knight cowl, which I always think of that like almost Assassin's Creed-esque, but kind of a bit more deeper fang. And then you've got Spider-Man's eyes, and expressionism comes from those style of eyes.
Absolutely.
So I loved it.
Yeah, it's got. I love his web shooters as well. It's kind of modified because they're more than. It seems to be more than just web shooters, and it actually reminds me more of a Venom kind of thing where the webs come out over the hand, but these are blatantly pieces of equipment, aren't they? Like rather than the Spider-Man concealed web shooters, which he's more traditionally known for. I think also as well, Rebecca and I, we did talk about how we wondered, I think, whether ARACH-KNIGHT came about. The impetus of it started with actually making a good cosplay costume, because this would be a really cool cosplay costume, I reckon. And they have put thought into it because, you know, those baggy cargo pants, anyone can just go to a Walmart or a Target or what do they have over in Ireland, Chris? What are the nice departments or the cheaper end department stores?
Well, you've got Tesco, which is in the UK as well. Yeah. You've got IKEA, Aldi. Well, welcome to Irish Shopping Podcast 101. This is a podcast within a podcast within a podcast.
That's it. And
what we're going to talk to you about is just the one and only Dunn stores, owned by the Dunns. It's we've got a majority of the same. The only traditional Irish ones would be Super Value or Dunn stores, and you would not be buying cosplay material from them. It's the other ones you would.
Okay. Yeah, but as you mentioned as well, the iconic Moon Knight hood, and I think his cape as well. There's a couple of times here he's kind of soaring on his moon glider, which his moon cape, for Moon Knight fans obviously know that he does use it not to fly, but to kind of glide around, catch the updrafts and such. But yeah, very much the Spider-Man mask itself, and the awesome chest design and the arms. There's a bit of Declan Shalvey in there with the design of the plates on his arms. There's a nice nod to Moon Knight there. Chris, what did you think of this whole relationship with, I was about to say the Osborns, but they're the Russells, aren't they? Norman and Harry. Yeah.
I enjoyed this. And as I kind of said in I think our previous one, I'm more cursory Moon Knight.
Mm-hmm, yes.
So assuming that and especially not even Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night, I should say. Mm-hmm. So having that element in there, I was like, I'm assuming that someone in Mark Spector's life was a Russell who was actually the werewolf, and they were best friends at one point, etc., etc. So I like that they just took it as the Osborns being that. I like that Harry still is the best friend, but we do find about midway through when they're back in Parker Industries that Harry's been helping, has been helping Peter Spector or Peter Parker, whatever we want to call him, ARACH-KNIGHT. He's been helping ARACH-KNIGHT for years, back since college, and they've been building gliders together. They've been building because Peter always wanted Harry as a sidekick.
Yes. Yeah, and I actually put this in, and again, this was raised in when we did the review of issue 1. I think there's a very tentative connection between Harry and Frenchie, Moon Knight's offsider. I wouldn't call him a sidekick. He does help Moon Knight a lot. And there seems to be that relationship, similar to how Peter Parker and Harry Osborn were kind of mates in high school as well. Not that Mark and Frenchie were mates in high school, but they were brothers in arms when they were both mercenaries. So I think I saw that as a bit of a nod towards that. With Jack Russell or Norman Russell, just to answer your query, Chris, about that kind of relationship in the Moon Knight canon. Werewolf by Night actually, has no real lasting connection to Moon Knight other than the very first, back in 1975, Werewolf by Night 32 and 33. They really don't know each other. at all. If we go back there in 1975, Moon Knight was employed by the Committee, kind of like a bad organisation, and he was actually commissioned to take out or capture Werewolf by Night. That's pretty much their relationship, and it's not developed any further throughout the years. Unfortunately, Jack Russell is just seen as this almost like Incredible Hulk-like Bruce Banner character who has this curse with him. Unfortunately, he actually bumps into Moon Knight a couple of times. There's one time in 2006 where he actually bumps into it in a Benson issue. I think it was Moon Knight 20, drawn by Mike Deodato Jr. That was a really good one. But other than that, yeah, they're very, very incidental. But what I did find, Chris, was really good here was the intermingling of this Jack Russell curse and the, how shall we call it, the curse of the Green Goblin amongst the Osborns.
Yeah, they don't really explain that well, because what we do get is, so they talk about it being the curse, but then when Peter's investigating the Russell, the mansion, the Russell, yeah. Mm-hmm. When Peter's investigating the Russell mansion, we do see that there's a number of vials, and he's been strapped down, because Green Goblin's always been the scientific, a byproduct of a scientific experiment gone wrong. Be it through that he wanted Super Soldier. There's been the Super Soldier version. Right. There's been, it was down to, he took Oz, which was supposed to be a cure-all thing. There's always been slightly different variations, but essentially it's science causes it. In this, we don't get that. We just get told it's a curse. So I'm like, but then you see all the scientific vials that they were probably being injected with. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, you need to double down with one or the other. But
were the vials maybe, rightly so, I mean, exactly as you say, but they could be looking for a cure. I don't know. I agree with you.
Exactly, or glowing blood.
Or glowing blood, yeah. Look, I agree as well. Actually, one of the things I thought detracted from this issue, I found actually pointless to an extent, was there's a flashback that Harry has when he's young, and when he first discovers Norman as the Green Goblin Wolf or whatever by night. Yeah, I don't know, Chris, am I missing something there? I mean, for me, it seemed like a bit of a pointless thing. Of all it showed was 2 pages of Harry when he's young, a little pissed off at his dad because his dad works a lot. Then he finds the Green Goblin by night, in the alley, and it turns out to be his dad. What's the point? What was the point of this?
I got that this is supposed to be... I took from it that this was just supposed to be that Harry's been minding his father since that day, since they were as a child.
Okay.
They had already just established that well earlier, just through dialogue. So I'm with you on this. I'm like, meh, it wasn't necessary, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. I did enjoy the colours. I thought in those 2 pages, starting with the night everything changed, the colours and I guess the treatment of the artwork to make it look like a flashback, I thought was quite nice to look at. And as a whole, L.A. Garza's art, I think has been brilliant. It's got a very cartoony kind of aspect to it, but I don't mind that. I really do like... I do like the way he draws both, I guess, normal people and both, the monsters and ARACH-KNIGHT as well. No,
you're gonna get me to say it. I'm in this weird... At first, I did not enjoy it.
Okay, yeah.
And I'll be honest, I did not enjoy the art style, but it kind of did grow on me. Mm-hmm. Over time, and that's being honest, because it is very vibrant, it's very colourful.
Yeah,
and I was like,
it is, isn't it?
Okay,
it's good. And the layouts are quite nice as well. I'm looking at a digital copy, and it's about page 5, and you get just basically a freeform splash page of ARACH-KNIGHT gliding or thwipping through the air. A really nice montage.
Yeah, so that was the weird one. He's gliding at first, then he's thwipping, and then he's swinging. I was like, oh, you gotta pick one. He can't do all three at the same time.
I know. I think it must be obviously hopeless trying to pander towards both fans. I mean, he wants to make sure Spider-Man fans and Moon Knight fans are catered for, and yeah, I think so. He gets a bit of ARACH-KNIGHT kind of overdoes it a bit. I do like the little bit of humour that Hopeless interjects into the story. There's only one really big funny bit in it, and it's when ARACH-KNIGHT is talking to himself, obviously, because he's got 4 personalities, and he ends up. I think he must end up with the scientific Peter coming to the forefront. And he kind of forgets how to stick the landing as he's gliding or flying through, and he ends up just bouncing off a wall and falling onto a rooftop. I thought that was pretty funny.
I really enjoyed this aspect of it, which is where the scientific Peter can take over, and then they're saying, "Oh, I can't fight," and just gets smacked around.
Yes.
Or things like that. I really enjoy. I found it quite. I enjoyed that aspect because it's how, and also at the top of this page, for example, as well, you get to see the distinct difference in how they're doing the 2 Peters, or 2 of the 4 Peters, just through something as simple as just the eyebrows, showing the difference of them.
Yeah, I really do like the personality and this whole aspect that Peter Parker has these different personalities, and they're so distinct. Like the Peter Parker Industries kind of billionaire, then you have the scientist, then you have obviously the superhero, and then you have. But what I found, Chris, I found it a little hard to find who was who. I mean, again, we see the different use of fonts, which is good, but they're so subtle, and I've just never really locked on as to who is which font, you know what I mean? Obviously I don't know what you call it, ancient kind of Egyptian-looking font, I reckon that would be ARACH-KNIGHT, like the personality of ARACH-KNIGHT. But I reckon what could be improved would be to actually distinguish these 4 personalities even more. I mean, in Moon Knight, you have very distinct, like Jake Lockley's the taxi driver, you have Stephen Grant, who's a billionaire, and then you have Mark Spector, who is the mercenary. And although you can't actually tell who's at the forefront, with Moon Knight comics, what you do, and in their latest Bemis and Burrows run, they actually show apparitions, so you know who the other secondary and tertiary characters are. I just found this a little confusing as to who is meant to be who.
Yeah, because that's it. It's just eyebrows, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, there's no moustache, there's no hat, there's no... or I think they went as far with glasses. They put glasses on...
Oh, yes.
They put the glasses on scientist Spider-Man. I was like, no. That's a cop-out.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I don't know. I'd need cues for... I think also, look, it can be done. Hopefully, we spoke about this just before starting the show. I think both of us are pretty curious as to maybe future adventures of ARACH-KNIGHT. I think it'd be fair to say that it would be really interesting to see them explore it a bit more.
I do hope so. I really, really do. I think there's a possibility here for something that could be great.
Yeah.
It's got the elements of... To be fair, it's got the best elements of both.
It does, yeah. Absolutely.
And if you double down on... Like, if they evolve the costume, for example, they double down on a few other things, over time, it will become its own... It will, over time, become its own thing.
Who knows? It could actually, be really, really popular. I mean, again, I'm just really loving this costume. So, they could really... and Dennis Hopeless has done really well here, and he's also kind of left things a little open. I mean, although at the last page it says, the end, there is a lot of fodder for fleshing out this particular universe. So let's talk about, I guess, the big reveal. So Harry gets attacked by his own father in the lab, and he gets bitten. And actually, I thought that was the end of him. I seriously, I thought that was him gone. Did you expect to see him back towards the end, Chris, or what were your thoughts on that when he got bitten by his dad?
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay,
yeah. Because I was like, that's just because it was too perfect, if you will.
Okay, yeah.
It's just like, okay, we know something is going to go on here, because there's no way it would just be like that. You're going to exit one of the biggest characters just like that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess I just got so caught into it. I just, yeah. But yeah, anyway, so he does return to save Green Goblin by night, because ARACH-KNIGHT is just going to town with him at the end, almost to the point where he is going to kill him. I mean, he smacks the living daylights out of him, and this is ARACH-KNIGHT taking over for revenge for the death of Aunt May and Ben Parker, which we saw in issue 1. But then we say, yeah, Harry come back, and he reveals that he is a Green Goblin / werewolf himself. He got infected by his dad being bitten. So also as well, Chris, did you pick up ARACH-KNIGHT actually gets bitten as well? So again, there's another opening.
Oh yeah, no. So I think it was something. We'll find that there's a werewolf totem, a spider totem, and the werewolf or the goblin totem is one of them. The Green Goblin totem is one thing now. And they've been battling for years. Like, the option for the mythos is great, because you're able to say, well, actually, Peter didn't get turned into the Green Goblin because the spider came and helped him. And you could see that there's been other people who have been bit and just died. And there's a lot of stuff you can do there, which I think would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, so, again, like, Dennis Hopeless is keeping the door open for a lot of possibilities here, and I certainly, I think we both certainly hope that we kind of get more of this. It's any other points of note, Chris, during the issue that you potentially want to discuss?
I just want to see what you thought about Norman. So Norman, at the end, in the last couple of panels, is he going to become the new Frenchie? So they're setting it up as this old man, Butler-esque kind of style.
Oh, hang on, hold the phone. Yeah, very much, because he's kind of, as you said as well, he's off the hook, isn't he? Like, so Peter's ARACH-KNIGHT's not going to kill him anymore. There's been almost closure on that. Very interesting. Yeah, again, stuff like that could just be explored further on.
Yeah, because it's like, so literally the last bubbles are basically good. That means now you can help me. We'll patch you up and then we'll get to work. And I was like,
yes.
Okay, so literally he's becoming the new Harry, and they're going to go after it. So I was like, okay, this is cool. This is a nice twist on it that you would expect.
I'm just reading this thing as well. And so he also mentions, you don't understand, Norman says to Peter, you don't understand. I passed the curse onto my son, onto my Harry. And then he says, and in some cruel twist of fate, now I'm free. Does that mean then that he's actually literally passed the curse on and he's no longer susceptible to becoming a werewolf? In which case,
I take it that way. Yeah.
In which case, that would lend itself even further to your theory on him potentially being the Frenchie to ARACH-KNIGHT. I like it.
Yeah. So overall, my whole thing is just I actually want to see more.
Yeah.
Like, it's basically, you giving me this. If they had turned around and said, we're going to give you 2 more issues, 3 more issues. Because you got to think, this is something similar to what happened to Spider-Gwen.
Oh, yeah.
Spider-Gwen in Edge of Spider-Verse was just a spin-off. That's what she was. And I don't mean this in a derogatory or sexist way.
Sure.
She was literally just one of the introduced characters, and they were just going to do this short run. She proved so popular that then they started writing her into her own comic books. And now she's in the Edge of the Spider-Verse film. And now she's also back in the 616 universe as well. So they're introducing... So what I'm trying to say is, if a character is compelling enough, I think there's always an option there. So what I would like to see is, I'd like to see some of the artists who are kind of currently on Spider-Man to kind of come over, but I'd like to see the writers from Moon Knight.
Oh, very nice.
Because the writers of Moon Knight get more of the mystical, but also more of the split personality, the dissociative identity disorder. They get that better. So I don't think... I'm not saying that a Spider-Man writer can't do that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's just there's just like certain writers in the Moon Knight ecosystem have a better way of doing it. So I bring them, but then I bring the artists from Spider-Man who get a bit more of the arachnids, or the ARACH-KNIGHTs, I should say, certain style. So that's what I would be doing.
That would be awesome. I'd love to see that. Would be like a super team, like a super group of a creative team. Absolutely, I'd like that as well. I think that'd be really good. Again, not to say that the Spider writers can't do it, but Moon Knight writers can definitely. I'm thinking Charlie Houston, and I'm thinking even the big guns, Jeff Lemire as well. They can give it a real darker angle to the story. Because we see it a bit here as well. We see, ARACH-KNIGHT is definitely not like Spider-Man in the sense that he has no problems going down there and killing or maiming criminals. Spider-Man would never do that. We see it here alluded to a little in Dennis Hopeless's 2-part arc. But it could definitely be fleshed out a bit more with the Moon Knight writers. Also, as well, you mentioned Spider-Gwen, Chris. How cool would it be? I think we mentioned this. I can't remember. Did we mention this off the bat, or maybe just before we recorded? How cool would it be to see ARACH-KNIGHT in another Spider-Verse core event? That would be just great, as one of yet another iteration of Spider-Man.
Exactly, and that's where I think he'll live. Hopefully now.
I hope so. If we don't get another series with him or another 2-parter or whatever, I'd be absolutely just totally happy if he's in Spider-Geddon or Enter the Spider Apocalypse or whatever the new Spider.
The third version of it is.
Yeah.
No, I think they should. I don't think they should. So So to kind of summarize and wrap up, is this one of the best Spider-Man stories or Moon Knight stories ever written? No. Is it fun? Yes. And that's the thing. Does it have potential? Hell yes. Yeah. I think that's the bit. They've found something that potentially could be fantastic.
Yes.
And they've kind of zeroed in on it.
Yeah, you've hit it on the bloody head there, Chris. It's absolutely those 3 points. Basically, it's not a timeless arc. We're not going to be going back to this, in years to come and going, look, I want to reread this again because it made such an impact on my character. Nothing like that. But it is one really fun kind of 2-part thing. It's very nice, and it's kind of like a fun read. It's like a bit of a popcorn kind of film, and for sure it is memorable. I mean, this costume as well. I think whoever designed it, I'm not sure if it was Humberto Ramos. One of the artists, I think it was the Spider-Man artist, had designed it. Absolutely memorable, really, really good, and just want to see more of it. And the potential absolutely is there. Like, he's only scratched the surface, Dennis Hopeless. And I think, if anything, I'm going to do it with my marking, my rating, because he's actually made this, given it so much potential. I think he's made it a very successful two-parter.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I can't agree more. It's just exactly. It's a successful. Like, they set out with what they want to do. They wanted to create a nice warp character, similar to, I can't remember, Sorcerer.
The Soldier Supreme. No. It's Captain America.
Soldier
Dr.
Supreme.
Strange.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty
now,
smart. And
that one, iconic looking. I don't know how. I haven't read it, so I can't say how amazing or not amazing it is. So a lot of these characters, what I do not hope. Sorry, what I hope for in the future is that this character will not end up in one of those top 10 lists of crazy whacked out Spider-Man versions you've never heard of.
Oh yeah.
So like those CBR kind of .com kind of lists, which are still fun sometimes, but it's like, hey, bet you never knew there was a Spider-Man Midnight mashup, and I'm like, no, it was actually kind of good. So yeah, that's kind of where I want. I'm like, hey, look, go change this in the future, and we'll be good. Get someone on it, evolve it. And yeah, just I want to see where the character grows.
I can see it. Like, I can see them maybe dabbling and experimenting, and hopefully, if a writer or an artist pitches this to one of the editors again, to maybe doing another limited series, because it is so good. I think actually I haven't read Soldier Supreme as well. I've read Iron Hammer, and I've read the Ghost Panther, which is the Ghost Rider Black Panther crossover, and I've read Weapon Hex. Unfortunately, I think Weapon Hex is a bit of a floater, a bit of a dud.
Wait, Weapon Hex is Scarlet Witch, Wolverine, or X-23?
Yeah, exactly. X-23 and Scarlet Witch. I love Scarlet Witch. I was a little disappointed in how it was handled. But Iron Hammer, really strong. I really enjoyed Ghost Panther, actually. But I found a very strong, a nice amalgamation of Ghost Rider and Black Panther. And I've heard Soldier Supreme from your crew, actually, Defenders TV podcast. I've heard that's been pretty good as well. So they've done very well with this Infinity Warps thing, and I just hope it has legs. I hope maybe not only ARACH-KNIGHT, but I hope the likes of Soldier Supreme, Iron Hammer, they maybe get another crack at it, because it is so much fun, isn't it? And not every comic has to be, so entrenched in canon and so heavy and thought provoking. Sometimes you need comics that are just a fun ride, and these Infinity Warps have certainly provided us with that. So
you said it perfectly. This is popcorn comic books.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I'm okay with that. That is a good thing.
I ripped that off the director, John McTiernan, who directed Die Hard, but he also directed Predator, one of my favourite movies. And in one of the commentaries, he mentions that he wanted to make Predator the ultimate popcorn movie. And I think that just sums it up, You're not bound by having to think intellectually about it. You're there for a good time. And I certainly think Predator did that. I don't know if you're a Predator fan, Chris, but yeah.
I am. I actually, and I'm strangely one of the ones who like Shane Black's version of the new one.
Oh, really? I haven't seen that yet. I'd like to watch it. And he certainly has kudos, doesn't he? I mean, he's Hawkins from Predator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard bad things about it as well, but I want to be the judge myself, so I'm glad, actually, that you said that it's good. So I've heard at least a couple of people say it's good. I've heard a lot of people say it's bad, but I want to check it out when I can. Anyway, aside from that, Chris, let's get to the moon ratings here before we get on to just a couple of other things I want to touch base with you with. Moon ratings for ARACH-KNIGHT number 2. Out of 10, Chris, or out of a phase of a moon, what would you give ARACH-KNIGHT number 2?
6 full moons and
cool.
a half.
6.5.
6 full. No. I'll just really screw with you. 6 full moons, 3 quarter moons, and 1 total eclipse of the heart.
A total eclipse. That's a new one. Awesome. I've never heard of that one.
This is for me. It was 6 and a bit. It's better than average. It has promise. It has some amazing things in it, but it's also somewhat lazy, and there's a couple of panels that are just not needed. Could have been tighter.
Totally agree.
If I'm being critical, but as a total, I'm like, no, this is great. I'm being harsh to be harsh. It's kind of like it's like that kid who you kind of are a bit hard on because you know they can do better. It's like, I know you can do so much better than this. Come on, just tighten it up a bit. Yeah.
Chris, what are you doing? Like harassing poor kids, like
children? I don't know. That's probably why I'm not allowed to do schools now. I'm just running to the school, going, "You can do better, Billy. You can do better."
Exactly.
Who are you? I don't know.
That maths test was shit. Away. Go back in there. You can do better. Oh, good.
That's gonna stick with you. Okay. So I think that's the kind of best synopsis I can give it, which is it's good, better than great, not quite great, not better than average. Has some great premise. Mm-hmm. It has the ability to be something better. So very much with great power comes great psychosis and responsibility.
Excellent stuff. And I'd like to thank you, Chris, for, like Thanos, when he grabbed that moon, thank you for destroying our convoluted moon rating system. I love it. 6 full moons, 3 quarter moons, and a total eclipse. But about 6.5, you say. So if I'm to go there, that would be a Waning Gibbous, believe it or not. A Waning Gibbous, which is just under a 3/4 moon. So that's how I'm pitching it for you. I would.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but I still like your 6 full moons. No one has ever given 6 full moons, Chris, and that's fantastic. I would give it. And I'm not copying. I would give it around the same. I would be hesitant to give it a 3/4 moon. It's not good enough for 7.5. Again, for the points that you mentioned, for a 2-parter, which has to be totally compact, I was left questioning those 2 pages of Norman Russell's flashback. I thought that was unnecessary. I don't know why he put it in there, maybe to break up, maybe for pacing. But for 2 issues, if you have 2 issues to tell a story, you want it to be nice and lean, and you want it to be quite efficient. So there were a little drops in there. The art was fantastic. I really did enjoy the art. But the main point, as you mentioned, was potential. And I think the potential and the aesthetics of ARACH-KNIGHT really do sell it for me. So that got most of the points for me. But I would give it a Waning Gibbous, a 6.5. 6.5 out of 10. So actually, Chris, what would you give the whole arc itself? If you were to include issue 1 and issue 2, what would you give that?
It would be something slightly more. So again, probably just a 7.5. Not because just from a pure statistical point of view, I'm like, okay, well, it can't be 2 6.5s does not equal a 10.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it's kind of like that. Again, it's kind of the same way, the same thing, which is it has the potential, just not there yet.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it goes without saying, I think we both want to see more of it, and hopefully the next Spider-Man crossover event or Spider-Man event will give us that. So there you go, Loonies. That is our review of ARACH-KNIGHT number 2. So that is, unfortunately for Moon Knight fans, that's the closest we're going to get for a current Moon Knight issue or Moon Knight comic book. Moon Knight is currently on a hiatus with the end of the Max Bemis run, but we ever hope that there will be a new series introduced soon. But before we go, Chris, just a bit of feedback. Look, there was only a smattering here and there on our Facebook group. I'm just going to run through a couple of them quickly.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so Patrick Curtis, he just mentioned of this issue, excited. Actually, no, I won't say that because he was mentioning he's excited to grab the issue, so he actually hasn't read that yet.
Well, look, that's still
that
feedback.
Is feedback.
So
yeah.
he's excited to grab it. Yeah. I would suggest grabbing it with 2 hands. And then opening it slowly.
That's it.
That's probably the best feedback I can give to your feedback.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So like Charlie from Willy Wonka and the chocolate bar, just open it slowly, enjoy it, savor it. Hopefully, there's a golden ticket in there somewhere. We have just another couple of comments mentioning that they're hoping to pick it up as well. We got one from Blake, and I'm just going to put this out there because I have no idea what he means by it. He says, poo poo doo doo. LOL. Thank you, Blake. Hoping that means you enjoyed it still. I'm hoping it means that you hated it. But we have one from Josh Geronimo Johnson, no stranger to the show. He has hosted the show whilst we've been away, and he's been a guest host as well, so a very valued Looney member. Josh says, I thought it was good, but I enjoyed issue 1 a bit more. There wasn't too much Moon Knight influence in this one, which was a bit disappointing. I liked Harry's point that unlike his dad's uncontrollable killing of Peter's aunt and uncle, if Pete kills Norman, it would be with full intent, which is what was mentioned towards the end. I also liked how the passing on of the curse from Norman to Harry was metaphorically done, to echo the physical and psychological torment of the Green Goblin mantle, which, totally agree. I like that kind of parallels there. It would be cool if this title would continue. I'd be interested to see other characters, villains ARACH-KNIGHT would interact with. The art was good, but nothing special. It did have a dope-ass cover, though. I'd give it a first quarter Moon, or about a 6.5 out of 10. So thank you, Josh, and Chris. Josh very much is on the same wavelength as ourselves.
Agree. I think if we actually poll the overall Facebook group, this is kind of the score we're going to get from a lot of people, which is, it was good, not great, but it's getting there, and with the right treatment, with the right, a few more Moonlight influence kind of, some of the writers, that type of thing, it's going to be fantastic, and we want to see more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a bit of a bell curve, as you say, so the majority probably would say that. I reckon there'll be people that hate this, I reckon there'll be people that love this as well, but the majority definitely would, I reckon, fall under our same sentiments. With that, Loonies, that ends our review. Chris, I would like to thank you so much for being on the show. Before you go, though, I wanted to actually spectacle. I wanted to give a massive shout out. So, Chris, 200 episodes from Defenders TV podcast. How good is that?
Oh my God, the amount of wasted time. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm so happy.
You guys have done an awesome job.
Thank you so much, and hopefully some of your fellow listeners are also fellow Defenders.
Yeah, for sure. I know they are.
I know you are. I know Connor is. I know a few of them are. So it's very much, it's onwards and upwards for us. Another 200 more to come. And we've got Jessica Jones and Punisher Season 2. Jessica Jones Season 3, Punisher Season 2 coming next year. And look, I can't let you go without asking as well the absolutely gut-wrenching news which came over the past week with Daredevil, and as you mentioned then, Jessica Jones and Punisher, where that leaves them. What are your thoughts on what's happened? There was a few moments of sitting like Jessica Jones in a darkened room with a bottle of whiskey. She's my namesake in multiple ways. No, look, unfortunately, this is business, not for us, but because this is love and art for us. I know the only people that know what's going on in there is Netflix and Marvel. And I'm not talking the cast or the showrunners or the writers. As we know, Daredevil were pitched. Luke Cage was pitched and writing on the wall. Writing had begun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is a tough one. There's been a few. It was announced. It was announced on the Friday. On the Saturday, there was a tweet that Daredevil will live on. It's not going to be on the Marvel streaming service, in my opinion. That's pretty much not going to happen. So it's very much, how or why or what, who knows? Honestly, and it's not going to look. They may park these characters for a while, but they may suddenly start some new characters. You may, because of these cancellations and the influence of Marvel in these, maybe Marvel wants Daredevil back, but said, hey, do you know what? You're going to get Moon Knight over on Netflix. Well, that's it. So I don't think this is the end. I think, and I know I'm pandering to my audience kind of on this one, but this is we're not going to run out of good quality kind of shows, because you do have Jared Way's Umbrella Academy coming to Netflix, which is fantastic. If you like I know it's My Chemical Romance, Jared Way. Yes, I know a lot of people are like, oh my god, he wrote a comic book. Give it a chance. It is amazing. It really is old school and quite fun.
Right.
Then all of Millarworld was bought. Well, the rights for Millarworld were bought. So Jupiter's Legacy, which is fantastic. So, and Mark Millar, a god among men in the comic book writers.
Good. Yes.
So you're going to have those. Yes, I would prefer if it was all the Heroes for Hire, if it was our Marvel, dark and gritty Marvel world. If it's not, that's fine. We will find there's going to be international at some point. So what we do know is Loki is potentially happening with a small run. We have Scarlet Witch is going to get a small run. There's this potential Bucky and Falcon team up going to have. We're going to get quality TV, and I think that's the thing.
Yeah, I know, but it just stings a little. I mean, I guess you're right, it is business, but the likes of Charlie Cox, and the likes of obviously D'Onofrio, Mike Coulter, Kristen Ritter, John Bernthal, also Finn Jones, they just seem to fit the mold so well, and it's just a shame, and it just stings to think that they won't be depicting Look, who knows? I mean, there might be even, dare I say, there might be an actor that comes along that shoots it out of the water and is way, way better. But everyone, we've all fallen in love with these characters, so it is a hard pill to swallow. But as you say, there are plenty of other shows coming out. Let's look ahead. Jeff Lemire's Black Hammer has just been, I believe, has been bought or going to be turned into a series. Absolutely fantastic. So Moon Knight alumni Jeff Lemire, he's got it was a title over in Dark Horse, I believe, and Black Hammer is just a fantastic read. So that'll be good to see on the small screen as well as all those others that you'd mentioned. What do you think, Chris? I saw on the Defenders TV podcast group, someone dropped a carrot in front of Derek and mentioned how about doing the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. review. Would you guys be up for that?
There's a lot of episodes there. There's a lot of back catalogue.
There are.
We're talking about what will happen for us in the future. Defenders TV podcast is not going away. Look what happened with Fat Man on Batman. It is now Fat Man Beyond. And much like that, we will continue, like, be it where and how. Well, it's good. We've still got 2 amazing seasons happening next year. We've got our comic book stuff. I know not some of fellow defenders are not comic book fans, so we're going to give the smorgasbord. If you want to come in for comics, come in for comics. If you want to come in for Jessica Jones, come for Jessica Jones. But we will make sure we have something for everyone in the future.
Yeah, great. And I know I have been absolutely loving the Strange Tales as well with Derek and John, all about Doctor Strange and the Light of Soldier Supreme. Just to let you know, Chris, as well, I'd be hankering to hear your thoughts on the Spider-Man comics as well. I just can't wait for you to get in there amongst it and do the comic reviews there. I'll be with bells on listening to that.
Thank
you. And Loonies as well. Look, for those who haven't been listening, I'll put it in the show notes as well. I'll do links to their Twitter and their Facebook, Defenders TV podcast. Check them out. They have surpassed 200 episodes. Absolutely awesome reviews from Derek, John, and Chris. So go check them out for sure. They cover all the Netflix shows, all the movies, and they're doing some comic books now as well. So cannot endorse that enough. So anyway, yep, thanks again, Chris. I better let you go now. Thank you so much again for sharing your thoughts on ARACH-KNIGHT 2.
No, thank you. And yes, Loonies, listen up, come on over, and I will be back, as I said, every 40 episodes. So it's on your high priest now to basically just put a reminder in and go. So yeah, we're hitting up on 38. You better get back.
I'm going to put it on Google Calendar now. Awesome stuff. As always, Loonies, you can find us if you haven't already. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. We are chugging along. We are loving our community. So you can drop us an email on itkmoonnight@gmail.com. We're on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, facebook.com/itkmoonnight. We have a Facebook group. I think we're on 699. We're almost 700 members. Fantastic group there. Come join us, talk to other Loonies. That's facebook.com/groups/itkmoonnight. Our Twitter handle @itkmoonnight. We're also on Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube. Just search for Into the Night with a K, a Moon Knight podcast. Finally, iTunes ratings. If you can, please, it would be awesome if you do. Just give us a rating, preferably 5 stars. That just helps us get out there a bit more, and hopefully for Loonies who haven't found us yet, they might be directed towards our Facebook group and podcast. That's about it from now. This is our second episode to drop in the week. Just a couple of days earlier, we dropped our classic review of Moon Knight issue 1 by Doug Mensch and Bill Sienkiewicz. That was episode 75. Go check it out. It's just fresh and new, similar to this one. And as always, Loonies, may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.